Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a psychological trap that is so incredibly seamless, you probably don't even realize you're stuck right in the middle of it. We're going to look at how we, as modern professionals, make this massive mistake. We take a temporary institutional role, and we totally mistake it for our permanent personal identity. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine, just for a second, introducing yourself to a total stranger at a party. But there's a major catch. You literally cannot mention your job title. No company name, no industry, definitely no degrees or credentials, just you. For a lot of us, this simple little exercise feels strangely uncomfortable, doesn't it? Honestly, it feels almost impossible. So why is that so insanely hard? Well, it's because somewhere along the way, a really subtle but profoundly deep psychological transformation happened. You actually stopped describing what you do and you started describing who you are. Right? You aren't a person who writes software. You say, I am a software engineer. And sure, it seems like a tiny shift in words, but psychologically, it changes absolutely everything. The exact moment a role becomes an identity, your freedom gets trapped in something you ultimately do not control. Which brings us to Section 1, the borrowed badge. Now, we all tend to believe that companies pay us purely in money. But here is the reality check. The most powerful, most valuable currency that organizations distribute is actually identity. Just look at these: senior engineer, director, vice president, chief executive officer. Man, these labels feel incredibly powerful, right? Because they instantly answer that fundamental, deeply human question of who am I? They give us meaning, they give us status, and for a while, the answer feels perfectly clear. You literally become your rank. So the crucial point is, there's an uncomfortable truth hidden beneath every single professional designation out there. You don't actually own it. The institution does. It is a borrowed badge. It's a status you're merely renting. They allow you to wear it, sure, but one day they can, and often do, take it right back. And that leads us to Section 2, the identity void. Because what on earth happens when that borrowed badge is suddenly revoked? We enter a terrifying psychological abyss. Picture this. A highly successful executive, 20 years of absolute, relentless dedication. Countless promotions. Then, one random morning, a restructuring announcement, a sudden market downturn. Bam! Within hours, an identity that literally took decades to build simply vanishes into thin air. And not because their intelligence declined. The label just expired. Leaving behind this absolutely terrifying existential question, who am I now? Psychologists see this massive identity crisis happen all the time after layoffs or unexpected retirements. And here's the thing, most professionals can easily survive the financial hit of a layoff. What truly devastates them, what breaks them, is the identity collapse. The core story of their entire life is just gone. This brings us to Section 3, the institutional cage. You see, the most effective cages in the world rarely look like actual prisons. No, they look like absolute success. A corner office, a steadily growing salary, and a nice, clear path for your next promotion. Let's move to how this builds, because from the outside, everything looks totally ideal. But internally, you are slowly becoming completely dependent on the institution's approval. First, the role shapes your behavior. Every decision gets filtered through, how will this affect my career? Then, it shapes your beliefs. You start sacrificing your natural curiosity for strict, rigid specialization. And finally, it completely consumes your identity. You get narrowed down into one single predictable category. Think about this for a second. The title stops serving the person starts serving the title. It is honestly one of the greatest ironies of modern life. You start off with endless interests and potential, but slowly you become known for just one thing. And then you're limited by that one thing. You essentially build a prison entirely out of your own achievements. Let's look at Section 4. Skills over titles. Because escaping this trap requires a profound mental shift. You have to understand the massive difference between merely holding a title and truly owning a capability. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide. Look, titles aren't revocable. They are permission-based and they exist strictly within the walls of an institution. But skills are permanent. They're competence-based and they are deeply personal. An organization can strip away your position in a heartbeat, but they can never, ever take away your knowledge, your creativity, or your adaptability. Those belong entirely to you. We cling so hard to titles because, well, they give us a comforting sense of order. But let's be real. In our modern economy, that stability is a total illusion. Industries evolve overnight. Technology completely disrupts entire career paths. Companies rise and fall, and titles become completely obsolete. Relying on a title makes you incredibly vulnerable to the chaos, but relying on your own internal capabilities, that keeps you incredibly adaptable. So how do we fix this? Section 5, reclaiming personal sovereignty. True, lasting freedom begins the moment you untether your self-worth from those fragile external structures. If you want to build real resilience, you need to completely stop asking, "What is my title?" Actually, scratch that question entirely. Instead, ask yourself, what can I genuinely create? What complex problems can I solve? What real value can I provide right now? By asking these questions, you powerfully shift your identity away from needing external institutional validation and directly back towards your own internal capability. You finally stop seeing yourself as just a static little box on someone else's organizational chart. You see the truth. You are a vibrant, dynamic collection of skills, experiences, ideas, and pure potential. Remember this: agency survives change. When you root your core identity in your absolute ability to learn and contribute, you instantly become larger than your organization. You become so much larger than whatever happens to be printed on a piece of cardstock in your wallet. Because the reality is, one day, every single professional title will disappear. The role, the status, the corner office, they are all temporary. They're just borrowed. But the person underneath, that person remains. If your identity rests on your character, your capability, and your curiosity, well, you become untouchable. Because you are never the title. You are always the person behind it. So who is that person going to be today?